Hey Jane Eyre fans, I'm sorry it's been so long since I've made any reviews, or any videos for that matter. I do apologize, but I'm making them now. And as you can see, I've already have a little pile here of books that I've read that are prequels, sequels, retellings of Jane Eyre. And I'm going to start with a sequel to Jane Eyre, Jane Rochester by Kimberly A. Bennett. This was the first Jane Eyre related book that I ever found, and it's very near and dear to my heart because it was the first one I was able to read. I am a little sad though because other people who read this novel hated it. They didn't like it, which I thought was really too bad. I thought it was good. I did definitely have problems with it, but I'm not going to get into that because if I did, it would be a spoiler. And I don't want to give you spoilers, but I would recommend this one. Although I would not recommend this book if you're under 18, because it's basically goes from a year after Jane and Edward Rochester marry, and it goes into details including their wedding night, so there is definitely some sex. It's where the story begins, and it is slightly graphic, not horrifically so. It's definitely not a pornographic book, but it does definitely have sex scenes in it. So if you're under 18, don't read this book. Just wait till you're over 18. And if you don't like sex at all, if you want a novel with no sex scenes whatsoever, don't bother reading this. This does have a few sex scenes. It's not like some of the recent Jane Eyre porno books that have come out, but it does have sex. So don't read that. Don't read this if you don't like sex scenes or have a problem with them. The second book I'm going to review on this video is The Heirs Affair. I'm not even going to bother to try to pronounce the author's name because I'll probably get it all wrong, but this author's relatively famous. He's written a lot of books. This is actually part of a series of novels about a woman named Tuesday Next, and I believe this is the first of the novels. This is a hard one. On some degree I like it, but on the whole I really hated this novel, which is why I haven't bothered to read any of the other books from the series, even though the Edward Rochester character apparently appears in several of the novels. And if you have read this series, if you could tell me like which parts Edward comes up to, I may read them, just those parts, just to see how the character written in Rochester, but on the whole I didn't like this book. Mainly the reason why I didn't like this book was because it's like watching a Hollywood movie. It's kind of wishy-washy propaganda at several points. You know, you have an evil general, so you have the evil military, very cliche, extremely so. It was so cliche, my god. I knew what was going to happen 10 pages before it happened. It was that cliche. It was one cliche after another and another. This might as well be called the Cliches Affair. It was just filled with so many Hollywood cliches. Although I do have to give the author credit for writing a very convincing, very good world. He really goes into details on this world. It's much different than our own. So that's the only good part of the story, is the author's creativity in the world. I wish he had spent a little bit more time with being creative with his story than being creative with the world, because if he had been, this book would not have been that bad. It would have been a great novel because it was a really interesting world that he created. Very interesting alternative reality, but I have to give this a very bad review. I hated this book. Only read this book if you want to see Edward Rochester. That's it. That's the only reason you should read this book, is if you're one of those fans who just has to read everything Jane Eyre related like I am. Otherwise, don't even bother. This book was terrible. Absolutely terrible. I hated it. But I bought it anyways because it had Edward Rochester in it. That's why I bought it. If it did not have characters from Jane Eyre, I wouldn't have even bothered. Bad book. Don't recommend it. Okay, well, this is my first book review video. I will be making more, so I will see you soon. Goodbye.